Good evening, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of NRL Supercoach Off the Bench. The TLT is here. How exciting! It's the first one for the season. It's like Christmas Day all over again. And to go through the buys and sells and everything else and all the team list twist, we've got Matty Pearce. Welcome, Perso.
Thanks, Ross. Good to be here, mate.
Yeah, how exciting is it? The footy's finally here. We've only got a couple more sleeps to go and we're ready to go.
But I'm stoked for this season. I think it's going to be a really cracking season, NRL-wise, and that'll equate to Supercoach as well. So I'm really looking forward to this season. It's a lot more even than it has been in previous years.
And have you made many changes to your team since the teams came out?
Mate, I haven't touched it. I went through on the weekend and just deleted everyone out of my side in preparation for TLT today, and then I'll sit around and have a play around with it tomorrow night. I'm taking a different tactic this year because I've been guilty of playing around with it way too much in past years, to the point where you get to the point you don't even know which way you're looking. You've played around with it that much. So I've been pretty staunch this season, not playing with it too much, and I didn't look at it for 2 weeks after the trials. Left it as it was, had a bit of a look around, deleted everything on Sunday. I've still got a blank team at the moment, so
I like that team. They'll probably beat the Tigers too, that team.
Yeah, I'd say so. They'll beat the boy, at least. But yeah, I'll go through the cheapies and throw them in there first, and then I've got no idea where I'm going with guns and stuff. So
yeah,
but I'll sit down on my own tomorrow night without any interruptions and have a good crack at it.
Yeah, well, Eels and Storm are first up, obviously. Obviously the standout ones here is that William Warbrick's been named. Would you agree that he's pretty much a lock and load, must-have cheapie?
Yeah, you lock him in, go for it. The Storm's got too many injuries in the back line, and he looks the goods too. He probably would have got a start last year except for injuries. So he in the two trials he impressed. He's a big body. He's got skills. I think he'll hold that spot for the season. So he's definitely a lock in.
Strong and powerful too. Very, very powerful looking bloke. Obviously with the news that Hines has been ruled out and we don't know how long he's going to be out for, is there anyone in this game that you like as potential replacements for Hines? I mean, obviously you look at blokes like Munster, Mitch Moses, Jerome Hughes. Do you liking any of them as potential replacements?
Well, it depends on your team build. With Hines out, it's if you couldn't afford Hines with Munster or Grant, so then it certainly brings those two straight into the fray. That's for sure. If that's the way you were toying, especially with, we'll get to later, Qatar getting named at the Dolphins, you can sort of maybe free up a bit of cash and do that sort of play. But Hughes, not so much. I wouldn't go towards him. I'd like to see how the Storm go this year first.
Yeah, and then
forward pack different. So
pack. Let's talk about the forward pack because there's some really good options here. So you've got Welsh, Liero, and Katoa all starting, and then you've obviously got Cartwright, which we'll talk about in a minute, Matt Dory and Hopgood. Now, for me, I think Hopgood's a lock and load, definitely. Cartwright I wouldn't touch again to save my life. I think he's just a massive trap as well. Would you agree on that?
Yeah, I'm not keen. You definitely wouldn't start with him. Throw him on the watch list, see what happens there. But Hopgood, obviously, he's a lock and load. With the amount of injuries they've got and players left on the edge, when Maddo comes back, I know he was so dynamic playing 60-odd, 55 to 60 off the bench in the middle last year, but with the addition of Hopgood, I can see him going straight to an edge, which may well make either Cardi or Dory a bit of a trap, but when he comes back in round 4, so I quite like Hopgood. Cardi, no, watch.
What about Liero and Katoa?
Both look like getting 80 when you look at their bench.
Yeah. It's
Wishart and 3 middles, so I'd say they both play 80, which makes both of them an option.
Who do you prefer out of the two if you had to choose between one? I mean, I think Liero is about 40k cheaper.
Yeah, it depends on the team build. I'd Liero on the cheaper side, plus he's been in the system a bit longer. It's hard to say which side's going to get more attack because they're going to be a little bit different this year, so you sort of take it a bit sight unknown. I think both are good options. It just depends on who else you're looking at. There's an absolute plethora of those sort of lower mid cheapy second rowers. So it depends who else you want to sort of pick. But kind of tempted to pick both. I don't think both will be a bad option.
Yeah. Anyone else in that game you like?
Nothing that's out of the ordinary from the team list. That I mean, Dory's obviously an option now. He's fairly cheap. I think he's 230 odd or something.
Yeah.
And the Eels bench, it's pretty light on.
It is.
Momasia, Murchie, Greg, and Makatoa. I will say I think Greg's a trap anyway. You know he's cheap, but I don't see how many minutes he's going to get. Be interesting watch on the two starting props to see if they play in bigger minutes this year.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Warriors and Knights are the next game that we're going to look at. So big news that Greg Marzu hasn't been named, and from what I've seen, there's no news about him being injured. So I think that was a bit of a shock to everyone that O'Brien looks like he wants to be the first coach sacked already.
He's wielded the hook after 2 trials. Good old Heimel Hunt comes in, so which makes Heimel Hunt not an option either. I know he's cheap, but does he get cooked for Marzu again next week? It's just going to be a revolving door, I think.
There's another one in the Warriors. It's a cheap option too that I probably couldn't go near, which is Braden Williami.
Yeah.
I think
Rocco Berry's only out for a couple of weeks, so he's fairly trappish for me, Williami.
Yeah, there's a couple in the Warriors forward pack that I do like, which is Mick Barnett and Jackson Ford.
Yeah, I like both of them too. Barnett played prop in that last trial, and he played big minutes. He named it prop again. I think he's going to play big minutes. He played the first 33 minutes straight in that trial against Melbourne, which is a good sign. Came back on the second half, and then they played around with their rotations and things from there. But I can see well where Barnett's playing 55, 60 minutes in the middle, which is great for Supercoach. Ford looked outstanding in both trials, and looking at that bench, that was the biggest thing for me after watching that trial against Melbourne with Ford was the makeup of that bench. Ford played big minutes, and then Bailey Sirenan came on and subbed him on that left edge. So Bailey Sirenan is not on that bench.
He's not on the bench, and their bench is you've got Dylan Walker, who'll play somewhere, float around. You've got Afawa, who will play front row.
Burrow and Ale, who will just
and Ale will play front row, and then Curran will probably play some minutes on an edge somewhere potentially.
He played right edge in that trial when he came on. He came on in the middle and switched to the right edge, and Cora switched to the middle a bit too. So I think Ford's fairly safe on that left edge. He may well play 80. At that price at 281k, it's a fairly juicy option.
Yeah, and Kurt Mann named a lock for the Knights. O'Brien
no surprise there. Even if Elliott was named at lock, Kurt Mann would have been put at lock and jump a 13 or 14 or whatever, 14 or 15, whatever he was wearing. So that was always going to happen.
All right. Anyone else from that game you want to talk about before we move on to the next one?
It's a pretty weak bench for the Knights, so there's minutes on offer, but yeah, I just don't think the Saifee brothers are capable of it. So not really. Only other thing to note, the Gay Guy's injured, so Tuala's at centre. So anyone that might look at that, just forget about that. Gay Guy's not out for long. That's about it.
Yep. All right. Next one's Panthers and the Broncos. So the news now is out that Tuivasa is replacing Tyrone Mate on that wing. Do you think he's an option at 275k? Do you like him?
Yeah, he's pretty much a lock and load, isn't he? Now that May's gone for the season, so there was a bit of a rumour that McLean might have come in, young Jesse McLean, but I think he'll bide his time.
I think I was surprised. I thought they might have moved Tyler to that left wing, but obviously not. So
no, it's looking like they want to keep him on the right, which was interesting because Taruva played right centre in that trial in the St Helens in the World Club Challenge. So I thought that might have been a permanent swap. I thought that was an indication that Taruva might have been more of a right edge player, but we'll wait and see. I think he looks like he's on the left, so good option on that left edge.
Yeah, and Luke Garner somehow holds that edge spot over Hoskins, which I was a bit surprised about.
I wasn't surprised about it, to be honest. That Bennett side's pretty much as I expected, especially the bench. People say, Hoskins, they were never going to change. Who's Hoskins going to come in on that bench for? Sorensen, Lenya, or Salmon, or Luke?
Yeah.
He's pretty staunch, Cleary, with that bench. That's his main bench. And I know Salmon doesn't play many minutes, but he's got a role there, and he's been pretty staunch with that. So Hoskins was only ever going to play if Martin was out, I think. I don't take a lot out of that That's a World Club Challenge. It was absolutely pissing down.
Yeah, terrible conditions.
You pretty much put the red Sharpie straight through that as far as Penrith goes. I know a lot of people are sort of writing off Penrith and that, but wait and see. I think that's Garner. I don't know if I put him in my side. I'm still a bit wary on him, but
yeah,
his stocks are certainly growing because people are worried he wouldn't play Artie. I think he'll play Artie on that edge.
yeah. I don't take much out of that Panthers game either. If it hadn't been a flat fight for a dry track, I think the Panthers would have probably put a score on them, to be honest with you. And for the Broncos, there's obviously a few options there. I really like Payne Haas and I really like Carrigan too.
Yeah, Haas is interesting. There's not much in that team list that's was surprising at all. It's pretty much as we expected, with Walsh being injured, so Cobbo at fullback and Jesse Arthur's in the wing. Carrigan, yeah, he'll be good, but I don't see a lot of upside in him myself. He pretty much is what he is. He's pretty similar to Cotter. He's going to get you 55 to 75 every week. Not a bad option, but I don't see the upside in him. Haas is the interesting one because he had 2 busted shoulders last year, so I'm not starting with him, but I've got a big watch to see how he comes out.
Yeah. Anyone else from either of those two that you're interested in?
That was probably the most unsurprising team list. Is pretty stock standard, that one, the Panthers and the Broncos.
Yeah. All right. Next one we go to is Manly and the Dogs. So obviously Perham's been named at fullback for those who've got him. Do you like him at all as an option or at fullback there?
Was that Perham, did you say?
Yeah, Perham, yeah.
Yeah, no interest at all.
Yeah.
They're all traps for mine. The Perham, your Hammers, your CNKs, those sort of guys. I'm staying away from a lot of them.
Yeah, I'm not keen on CNK either. He hasn't been in my side all season. Obviously another cheapie that's a good option there is Monte. You got him. You're going to probably run with him too.
Yeah,
obviously, most are.
He's a lock and load, Alamotti.
Yeah,
it's been a worst kept secret for a while. He was going to get that start. He just looks a good footballer. He's got a good build. He's good game for Supercoach, so should be a decent cheapie, I think.
And then I'm looking at the forwards. Talangi on the edge there looks like he could be an okay option as well, but obviously I just don't know what sort of minutes he's going to play though.
I think both of the Manly edges will play 80.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the Manly's bench. Burbo, where's he fit in? That's probably the only question mark there. But he's weak to Burbo, Bullimore, and Assi. I'll spit that out. Speak properly in a minute. Josh Alloy is the last one.
Yeah,
it's an interesting bench. I don't know what the rotation is going to be there, but there's big minutes for someone. But maybe Burbo comes on for 10 minutes. It's all lungy. I don't know.
Weeks is an odd one on that bench. I don't know what they're going to do with him unless he's going to play some hooker.
Yeah, he's obviously the utility on there, but I don't know if he's going to bring him on like Dylan Walker last year and play in the middle type of thing. Yeah. It's a strange sort of option.
Yeah.
And with Burbo there as well. It's like you got 2 middles in Bullimore and Alloy, and it'd be interesting to see that rotation.
And then you've got a couple of interesting locks as well. You've got Kepi at lock, which I think we all thought he was going to be named in the front row. And Fanua Brown named at lock too.
Brown's the interesting one now that the news has gone down that Thompson's out for pretty much 6 months.
Yeah.
It must have been a pretty serious ankle injury. I had no word exactly what it was, but obviously wasn't good. I've got a bit of interest in Brown, and I'm not going to start with him, and I'm definitely watching to see what his role is there. That's for sure. But that Bulldogs bench, who's Jaden Tanner? It's come from nowhere.
Yeah, I know. I've never heard of him.
You got Waddell, Pele, and Preston. So there's 3 cheapies on that bench.
Yeah.
Ryan Sutton's the big benefit from here. I can see him playing 60 minutes in the middle at his price. I think he's probably going to be a good option. And not a lot of people will be looking at him. But Brown, he's a good footballer, Brown. He's finally back playing some consistent footy after a horror run of injuries. He was quite handy at the Tigers last year, given opportunity. So him playing that sort of linking ball playing role at lock, it's a big watch for me on him.
He's got a good PPM as well, from what I remember too. I think Brad Smith was saying he's got a real good PPM, and obviously he's only available at hooker. But like you said, if he can hold that spot and he gets that dual position, in round 6, he could definitely be an option if the price is right.
Yeah, someone to watch, that's for sure. You wouldn't throw him straight in, but definitely put him on the watch list.
And what about Kepi? You got any interest in Kepi? He's reasonably cheap.
He's a bit of a plotter.
Yeah.
And well, that bench brings a bit more interest into it, but I think Gerbo is still going to play close to 80 a prop. I think he's just playing a bit of a different role. I think Seabold's not really looking for that link forward, so he might go back to the way he plays for New South Wales and Australia, which would be good for him, which is a watch for Supercoach as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that bench, I think that's just going to go for the 3. He's just going to go with 3 rolling forwards, the old school 3 rolling forwards that a lot of teams seem to be going away with. So, Kebby, not the worst option, but if he was cheaper, I'd throw him straight in. But I think I'd rather just spend a little bit more and go for a Utica Mano as a third prop.
Yeah, even Moali probably too.
Yeah, I'd have Moali over him for sure because he's cheaper and he's probably going to see similar minutes.
Yeah. All right, next one's Cowboys and the Raiders. Now, there's a couple I want to speak about this game because I think there's a massive trap in this front row for the Raiders, which is Palasami Sayago.
Palasami Sayago, yeah, huge trap.
He's only starting because Josh Papali's out for the round. And there's been a bit of talk about him. I've seen in some groups, and I've said, do not go there. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't know if you agree or not, but the only Raiders forward you should be touching that you can guarantee will get the minutes and all that sort of stuff is going to be Tarpany.
Yeah, and I can't even start with him. Just on base the last year, he just seems to start slow. I think he's going to be my side at some point, but I think you'll get him cheaper and get him at some stage. But yeah, it's the same old story, isn't it? With the Raiders middles, they just sort of compete with each other for minutes. Even C&K being named at lock with Horsburgh and Gula on the bench, you wonder what sort of minutes that's going to be. You couldn't take the punt to start with, and you want to see what's happening there first.
Definitely not. And the other one I want to talk about from that game is Cohen Hess. Now, obviously, he's got an edge spot. I could see him playing reasonably minutes. You have any interest in him at all? Like, he could be a reasonable option.
That bench definitely changes it. What I noticed in the trial, they had the guys on the bench, Kozlowski.
Yeah.
You would have thought it looks with that bench, you'd think that Hess is going to play 80, so that makes it interesting. I haven't got the big kahunas to start with him, but I'll definitely be watching with that. I'm not sure how far Mitch Dunn's away. They reckon he's fairly close. Lukey's back round 4, so that's the worry with Hess. But I couldn't start with him, but it won't surprise me if he plays 80 minutes. The one for me with that bench is Granville. That rubs Robson completely out for me. If you look at last season, I know there's a few people high on Robson as an option, but the Cowboys have got similar draw to last year. They're playing in Queensland again in the heat. First 7 rounds last year, Robson only played 80 minutes once, and it's when they went to Canberra.
Yeah.
Then after that, when it's cooled down, it's 2 months in, and he started playing 80 minutes each week. He's going to get a spell from Granville for sure.
Yeah, I had him in my team. I was running Grant and Robson, and then I saw you talking about that, I think, on the 361 last week. And I went back and had a look at it, and I'm like, I can't do it. Like, it's just too much risk. I just think to go down to Cheese for like 300k cheaper and use that cash elsewhere, I can see Cheese easily scoring just as many points as what Robson can, even if he's only playing 50, 60 minutes himself.
Which, if you look at that bench from the Roosters throwing up this week, he's going to play more than that. He won't play 80, but he's going to play more.
Yeah. All right, we'll go on to the next game. I don't think there's anyone else there that we need to really speak about, is there, for that game?
No, that's pretty much it. No major surprises. Oh, Sebastian Chris at fullback, you wouldn't go near him.
No.
I don't see. Just in case people get excited about a fullback named in the centre wing.
Yeah, no. Don't do it. That's all I can say. Don't do it. All right, next one, Sharks and South, which was probably going to be the game of the round until Hines got ruled out, unfortunately. You can see South giving them a bit of a towel up now. So, all right, we'll have a quick look at this one. Obviously, Trindle's in for Hines, and obviously wouldn't go near him. There's not really many surprises there. I've got Wilton in my team at the moment. I'm going to be running with him. Cook's a decent option, but obviously their draw's a bit tough to start with. Cam Murray's going to be ultra consistent for you. There's not really any surprises with either of those teams, is there?
Nah, pretty straightforward as we'd expect those. The one thing that was slightly surprising was that Hines wasn't even named, so he was no chance this week. So for mine, that means he might be out for 2 or 3 weeks. So you couldn't, a 900k player, you couldn't just pick him this week and hope that he plays next week, because if he's out to get, that's just too much points, too much dollars to be sitting there. So I think we sort of have to give up the Nico Hines starting.
Yeah, it's one of those things. You have him in your team and you leave him on your bench, and it could be a week-to-week prospect. The next minute you could have 4 or 5 weeks, and you've got 900k sitting there, and then you're like, oh shit.
It could work in your favour, and he's only out for a week, and everyone drops him. Then you've got a massive pod, but geez, it's a bloody big risk.
Oh, it's a balls to the wall play to do it.
Yeah. The fact he wasn't named this week for me means that he was no chance this week. So that's enough for me to think it might be a couple of weeks. So I've got rid of Hines now. Wilton, as you said, I'm torn on Wilton because I'm just scared by Graham hanging around on that bench, coming pinching minutes off him. If we knew he was guaranteed to play 80, then he's probably one of the better of those mid options in the second row forward. But then Hines being out as well is a bit of a downer. But I'm going to watch him. I wouldn't push back on anyone who's starting with him, that's for sure. The Bunnies bench is interesting.
Yes.
Sheekan, Mawali, and Jack Mitchell. I think that screams big minutes for Totola.
Yeah, he's one that I'd never put him in my classic team, but I've picked him up in a couple of drafts because I just feel like he's with all the forwards that they've got injuries with at the moment, that he can get decent minutes. He could be pushing 60 minutes easily. Yeah,
well, he's one of those guys that starts off with slower minutes normally, and then towards the back end of the season, he's playing consistently 55 odd minutes, and I think he's just going to have to do that from the start this year with the amount of Havili and Saleh and Knight all missing. And you look at that bench, like that's pretty thin. So there's some big minutes in the middle. Murray will almost certainly play 80. You think maybe have a 5-minute spell. He's up for big minutes with that bench.
Yeah. He's one that I'm sure we'll all have him in our team in our team at some stage. But I think if you don't start him with Origin, and the bye, I think if you're not starting him, you're probably not getting him until after Origin.
Yeah, that's the problem with guys like that. That's what I'm definitely going to start with Murray, who was always in the side. Because that's the thing, Roscoe. You don't start with him when you're going to pick him up, and then when you're going to use 3 trades on him, especially at the back end of the season with the Bunnies having the buys in 16, 20, and 26. That's it. How many trades you're going to use on one bloke. So he's probably one of the guns that you could probably hold through Origin.
Yeah, and David Mawali's an interesting one too. On the bench there, I think, I can see him probably getting around about potentially 30, 40 minutes. What do you think about that?
He's a lock and load, I reckon, for 30 to 40 minutes, and that'll make him but he's probably the only one of the real cheap front row forward options I'm interested in out of your Keppies and your Pillets and all those sort of guys. He looks pretty safe and sound to be a slow grazer at that sort of round about the 1 ppm, score you 30 to 40 points a week and make some slow cash on the bench. He looks the safest of all those guys.
Yeah. All right, next one's Dolphins and the Roosters. There's not really many. Obviously, Katoa getting named is massive. I noticed that when there was all the talk about Milford getting dropped and Katoa being named, that his ownership quickly skyrocketed up to about 40%. I'm not sure where it's at the moment.
He'll be the most known player by tomorrow morning, I'd say.
But just on that game, I just want to mention, there's a couple I want to mention here. Corey Allen, I know he's a cheap option, but don't go near him. With Manu probably due to come back next week. Jackson Paulo is probably another one I wouldn't be jumping on either, to be honest with you. Just don't know about his holding his spot either. What do you think on Paulo?
Nah, I couldn't go near him. But he's not cheap. You'd want to see a bit more about how they attack, and I think they're going to go left more often than not.
Yeah.
The benefit out of that side is both the Butcher brothers with the news that Crichton's going to be out for 10 weeks at least, so that's great for Egan. And Nat Butcher was already locked in on the right. That bench,
you have to think
that bench of Hutchison, Baker, White, and May, they're both playing 80. You can lock and load Egan Butcher for playing 80.
Yeah. They're both. I think you could easily run both of them, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I wouldn't push back on that at all.
Yeah,
And they're not really, people aren't really going near him, especially Nat, because he scored so many tries last year, but he's on a pretty patent edge.
yeah. Well, with as you said, with Agnes out that long and still he's not due back until I think about May or something. I think they're both.
Yeah, he's mid-season, so they're both pretty safe options.
Yeah, surprised to not see Wong named on that bench though.
Yeah, I'm not sure I think they're just going to ease him in there. That was, I think a lot of people were getting a bit carried away with Wong. From what I saw in the trials, I wasn't expecting him to get named on the bench because you're not really going to use a 15-minute edge player, are you?
Yeah,
But they're always going to have a utility, which is Hutchison. It's interesting. There's no Turpin there, so you would think that the Cheese is going to get 65 to 70 minutes. Can't
yeah,
see Hutcho playing more than 10 minutes at hooker. He'd be there
and,
more as
yeah,
coverage, and I don't think he's going to be the Watson link role at lock that comes on either. So he's a handy player, Hutcho. He fills in anywhere, but I don't think he's going to be a big threat to Cheese's minutes. And then
yeah.
you got the young middles, Baker and White and May. But obviously, Hargraves is out this week. How long he's going to be out for, who knows? He wouldn't go near any of those guys, but
Yeah.
that leads to some big minutes for Collins and uh, Matt Lodge too. You'd think they'd both be playing 55 odd.
I like Lodge. I know, and I think I like what I saw from him in that first trial as well. I think he played about 40 minutes and racked up about 50 points. So he's got a good PPM too.
He's looked fantastic since he went to the Roosters.
Mm.
He looks to offload all the time too since he's been there. So he
Yeah,
gets through a ton of work. He's a sneaky option, I think.
yeah. And Todd Gilbert, there's a lot of people on him which I'm not convinced about. What do you think on Tom Gilbert?
I couldn't start with him no way. I think there's better options at similar prices.
Yeah, I think with that bench, like you've got Ray Stone on the bench. I would presume that Ray Stone potentially comes on and takes minutes off Gilbert, and there's a good chance if you want to smoke your pot option as a hooker, JMK could play 80 minutes with that team.
Possibly. Possibly. Stone was never really a hooker. He just filled in because they had no one else. So,
Yeah,
and Marshall King's more than capable of playing 80. Bennett's always sort of liked an 80-minute hooker, so I won't be surprised if he plays 80 and Stone simply plays in the middle when he comes on.
yeah,
There's one guy there I've never heard of either that made that bench there for the Dolphins, so Kurt Donaghy.
yeah.
I'm not
No
sure
idea.
what
I know
team
nothing.
there.
I got nothing of him. I
I
don't know.
don't know how secure his job security is. So I'm assuming he's a middle, so I don't know. Have to look into him a bit more. I don't ever
Yeah,
notice him in the trial.
yeah. Well, the last game of the round is our Tigers versus the Titans. So obviously Pereira's the lock and load for the Titans on that
Yeah.
wing. Just lock him in the team. I was surprised to see. I am, but I'm not. The Charlie Staines got named because I thought Junior.
Yeah, I was disappointed Tupou didn't get the go. Junior
Yeah,
Tupou, he was outstanding in the trials, and I don't know if Charlie Staines is a left edge winger either. So I
yeah,
thought Tupou was a lot for lot replacement for Mamalo. I was pretty much going to start with Tupou if he got the gig.
yeah. There's a couple of players, other players there that obviously locks. I think Dewey's He's a huge lock at 5'8". I think he's probably other than Munster, probably the next best option.
Oh, he's one of my first picks and staying there. Nothing's changed with him. Um, that bench for the Tigers pretty much locks in Utica Mano. For those that were looking at playing him as their second front row forward, it's probably not looking as grim as it might have. I've got him at third, but
Yeah,
that bench, you've got you only got two middles on there. You've got Simpkin and Kapoa who will play on edge. He'll swap with Blore. So I wouldn't go near Blore. That's
yeah,
the way they played in the trial. They sort of both played shared minutes on that edge. And then Bateman's might be back, who knows when. So I wouldn't go near Blore, but so he'll be playing on the edge. So you've only got Twile and Polo
yeah,
in the middles. So there's big minutes there. I'm not saying Yakamano's going to play 60 or anything, but he's definitely guaranteed for sort of 40, 45, you'd think. And at his price, he's going to make some coin. And he's got a lot of upside. So he's a definite lock in.
And for the Titans, you like what do you think of Tanner Boyd?
Haven't got him in my side. He's purely just because he's only available at 9 and 7. And I've just had Cleary and Hines the whole way at 7. And now that Hines is out, I'll probably just go with Katoa. So, but he'll go all right. I don't think he's a trap. If he does look like he goes off and I've got to get him in, he's an easy player to bring in. That was always my plan with him, to look and see how he goes. He's not a lock and load, but I think he'll probably go all right. Titans don't have the hardest draw, so it could be, even if they lose, there'll be plenty of points in their games.
Yeah. Well, they've got David Campbell on the bench too, which is interesting.
What was that, mate? Sorry?
They've got David Campbell on the bench too, which is interesting.
Yeah, their bench is
I
another one.
presume obviously Clark's going to play some hooker with Verrills, but I'm not sure.
Well, I don't know if he will. Verrills is fairly much an 80. You got Clark will be a middle. He plays a bit of lock. And you got Potawaker, and then Stimson has been predominantly an edge forward, but obviously he'll play some middle, you would assume, with that lineup. Yeah. So there's big minutes here for someone.
Yeah, I'm really interested in Tino. Tell me, you like Tino?
Yeah, that bench has made me think that Tino's going to be playing big minutes.
Yeah, and obviously the other one we should talk about is David Fafita too. You keen on starting him at all, or you want to wait and see?
Yeah, I'm starting Murray for Fafita.
Yeah,
and then going down to Hopgood, and then the lower players from there from the second row.
All right. Anyone else from that game at all?
No, that's pretty well covered, I think.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's the wrap up of TLT for this round. Thanks, Matty, for coming on and dissecting it all. And yeah, all the best. And let's bring on Thursday night footy.
Bring it on. 2 more slides.
Thanks, guys. See ya. All right.